What up, Truth Talks fam? For about a century in Black America, the NAACP was the face of Black political leadership. And then during the Obama administration came Black Lives Matter, an entirely different movement that was louder, younger, more radical, more aggressive, and unafraid to shake the table, unafraid to block highways. But behind the hashtags and headlines lies a question too explosive to ignore. Can the NAACP and BLM truly coexist now? Or are they working against each other at this point? Also, is the Obama's love story still going strong? Or has the fairy tale somehow faded? Hit that subscribe button on Truth Talks Live to get the tea on the forever first couple. Let's go.
Are y'all ready to roll? Let's go.
Dance to that music. That music got me going. Hey, truth tellers, you ever have like a coworker be like late to work, but then they come in and they say like really sweetly like, hi, and it's like so sweet you kind of forget that they were late? Unrelated to that, Dr. Sarah Fontenot is here finally. How are you?
Completely unrelated. I'm booked and busy. Okay, Torre, I'm sorry.
I don't want to tell anybody's business behind the scenes, but I'm so glad that you finally made the show, Sarah.
Just throw me under the bus.
You know I'm good for it. Dr. Brian, you've had me throw you under the bus a couple of times. How you doing under there?
And you seem to like it. I'm waiting for you to actually be a good Black man and help me get from underneath the bus, because we are so tired of you pulling us underneath it. You're the reason why you can ride it. But I digress.
You see how to do me, Gerald? I'm so glad that you're here.
I'm glad to be here, and I'm going to help both of y'all stay from under the bus.
Thank you. Finally.
Oh, good Lord.
King.
All right,
Justice
we're going to find
to
a
us,
way.
Gerald.
Somehow, some way. Let's get into trending truths. Number one, in recent months, speculation has run rampant on the internets that the Obama's marriage might not be what we thought. After several public appearances where Michelle did not join Barack, including Trumpy's inauguration, finally, our forever president addressed the rumors about his relationship. Take a look.
Barack Obama join us.
Barack Obama, can you join us on
Come
our
on
set?
out here, brother.
Welcome to IMO. Look at you.
How are you?
Wait, you guys like each other?
Oh yeah, really, huh?
That's so
The
nice.
rumor mill. It's my husband, y'all.
She took me back.
Now don't start.
I can't.
It was touch and go for a while.
It's so nice to have you both in the same room
I
together.
I know, because when we aren't, folks think we're divorced.
Look,
Dr. B, why are Black love stories like this constantly put under a microscope? This relationship is a beautiful one. They were making time to have dates while they were in the White House. I was so inspired. Do we want to see them break up or something?
No, the Obamas, they are the Black love story. The Black love story. I mean, come on now. I don't think that they are divorcing. I don't think it's anyone's business. I think that they're going through what married couples go through. It's called different seasons. And I do believe that they have the ability to go through the seasons and effectively, allow us to have an insight on what that looks like, as Michelle Obama has been very open about sharing some of her seasons with Barack, saying, look, for 10 years, I didn't even like the Negro, right? But I didn't leave him. I stayed committed to my husband, and I was able to figure out how to support him in a lot of different ways. And so I just think that as Black folks, we have to learn that marriage is a series of a lot of different stages and phases. And the more that we learn that, we will be able to be in it and not have a divorce rate that's so high, or not have broken houses and homes be at such a high rate. We'll be able to actually be in matrimony and do what I love that the Obamas have done, really build a real wealth, which is family.
I am let a lot of shit go on this show, but my former president's name is Barack. So let's at least give him that respect that he became the president to say his name properly. Oh my God. But look, when I see Michelle and Barack not together at the Carter funeral, at the Trump inauguration, I'm like, you go, Michelle, because she cannot show up and send a message for both of them that we repudiate Trump and Trumpism in public in this way. Barack cannot not go. That would be a bridge too far, but she cannot go. And that not only shows him allowing her to be who she wants to be, because he understands he has to do that. But also he loves her, but also she's sending a message of like, fuck Trump. That's the message. There's not a problem with Barack and Michelle. The problem is with Trump. Sarah?
Yeah, and you know what? Even if she did want to be there, and even if they were going through troubles, the fact that they can come together and pivot to stand as a strong home front in front of all the people is what I think is most important. But if that weren't the case, Michelle is a powerhouse on her own. Please believe she is also booked and busy. And so sometimes, even though I'm sure she is a supportive lead, we all know how their journey even got to him being president and the massively large part that she played inside of that. And their whole, like, if you watch the movie of them, adorable, loved it, warmed my heart, definitely cried. But I think that it's just a really beautiful thing that two people can come together, because this is the thing. For most people, my parents, my oldest brother, one of my sisters, they've all been with their partners for 20 plus years, right? The other ones are still too young. So my oldest brother, they just celebrated 29 years. My sister and her guy are 23 years. My parents are decades and decades. Most people try to speak from an experience they've never had. Which means if you've never been married for 10, 20, 30 years, then you don't know the seasons that happen inside of marriage. And like Dr. B said, it's none of your business. Stay out of your business. But I'm sure that the talk of divorce, or maybe you need to go over there, or the conversation of separation could come up. It just doesn't mean that you follow through with it. So even if that's what was happening, I love that they come together, they stand together, they pivot, they make a joke out of it, and they just continue to rock on stronger than ever.
Gerald, I just don't know that we have seen evidence of there's actually a problem in this relationship. I think that she's making, as I said, a political statement, not going to certain political events. The internet can say what it wants, but I don't see, she didn't want to do this at all, right? We know that she's an important part of Barack's success, but she did not want this political life for herself and her family. She went along with it because she loves him, but she was always like, I don't want this. So I could see where now we're on the other side of it. She's like, I'm not going. I don't care. And he's like, go ahead, honey. I love you.
Yeah, I mean, you got to understand, they're on the backside of the public life sphere, and I don't think that she wants to engage in it. I don't think there's an issue in their marriage. I think it's a very strong marriage. He was literally just on her podcast having a joke about all of this. And so I think the internet's making much ado about nothing. Yeah. They're in a very strong and committed relationship. She is a powerhouse, a Black woman on her own, and she is exercising her agency. I don't blame her for not wanting to go to the inauguration. Have you seen what about her on the internet? You want to be a part of that? And then secondarily, sometimes in a marriage, you just need your own space, your own life, and she's entitled to do that.
This is her expressing what so many of us feel. Fuck this motherfucker, right? And she can do that, and she can say it in her way, and I hear her. I'm not looking at their relationship. I'm looking at her making the statement that we all want to make. I would love to be an elected official who would not show up at a Trump event to snub it to him. Like, that would be an amazing thing. And I love what it says about Michelle as a first lady, that she's willing to do that. And I love what it says about the two of them, that he's willing to let her go and deal with whatever chirping comes from that. We move on to a story about Nene Leakes' son. Dr. B, you were recently on Nene Leakes' podcast and touched on a lot of things. She gave you an update on the condition of her youngest son, Brent, who struggled with health issues since experiencing congestive heart failure and having a stroke about 3 years ago. That was really powerful. What did Nene talk to you about?
About how hard grief has been for her entire family, that ever since, Greg left, she's been grieving, her youngest son, immediately following the death, had a heart attack, had a stroke, and hasn't really been able to fully recover. It's taken a toll on her as a mother. She's trying to hold it all down, and we know she's doing it on her own because she doesn't have Greg there to help that. Her exact words were, when Greg passed away, all of us were literally on the floor. we were just on the floor and could not pick ourselves up. And the impact of that is her baby boy having a heart attack and a stroke, as you know, a result from what Nene believes is grief and stress and a broken heart behind his father. And it's unfortunate.
I want to bring in Dr. Frida, who can help us understand this a little bit better, but I want to read a statement from Nene Leakes that his heart was weak and never got back strong after his 2022 heart attack. He got the heart transplant, but what's happening now is his heart started rejecting. So they are now trying to stop the rejection. Dr. Frida, can you unpack this in layman's terms? Can you explain it to us like we're fifth graders?
Absolutely. And hey, everybody, I will give you some background on me. I am Dr. Frida. I'm an MD. I'm a medical doctor. I've been quadruple board certified. So I'm a board certified nephrologist, meaning I'm a kidney doctor and a high blood pressure doctor. I'm also board certified in obesity medicine, internal medicine, and I have been board certified in pediatrics. And so I very much can break this down. What's happening is he literally had a heart that failed him, and not just regular failure, like we hear about congestive heart failure, where your heart is not necessarily pumping as strongly as it should be. His heart failed to the point where he required a heart transplant. We hear about this in older people, but it's pretty rare, definitely in someone who was only 22 or 23 years old. And yes, he did have a history of high blood pressure. Nene has talked about how he kind of had some borderline diabetes. We know that he was living with obesity and has since lost 100 pounds. But also, she shared that he had a COVID infection, and COVID can lead to cardiomyopathy or heart failure. Bottom line, his heart failed to the point where at a young age, he literally had to have surgeons put him under anesthesia, put him to sleep, cut open his chest, break open his breastbone, take his heart out of his body, and give him a transplant from someone who had deceased, someone who had passed away. And so when you have this huge operation, it can last as short as 4 hours. His operation, from my understanding, was 14 hours, this young man. And so he had the heart transplant. But once you have that, you have something that's foreign in your body, right? That heart is not your heart. So your immune system tries to attack it. It tries to attack it just like it would attack bacteria, viruses. And in Brent's case, and what Nene was sharing, is that now his heart is under attack by his own body, and it is rejecting, which means that he's very, very sick and has been in the hospital for months. And though people don't love to talk about life expectancy because it feels pretty gloom and doom, truth of the matter is that when you have a heart transplant, for the first year, most people will survive and live, like 90% of people. But even in the best case scenarios, usually heart transplants only last 10 to 14 years. So Nene's having to deal with the stress and facing the mortality of her own baby son in his 20s.
Sarah, tell mom you're going to call her back. Dr. Frida, Brent is young, and we see a lot of young people with mysterious, almost fatal diseases. Is something going on?
A lot is going on. And I'm telling you, the CDC just released a report that in young people ages 12 to 17, pre-diabetes has increased up to 1 in 3. So in other words, just 5 years ago, pre-diabetes in young people happened in about 18% of them. Now, in just a few years, the pre-diabetes has gone up to 33%. Another thing that's happening, strokes in young people. And we know that Nene Leakes' son, Brent, had a stroke. If you look at people less than 45, the rate of strokes has increased by 14.6% in just a short matter of time. And so young people are getting sicker. Is it because of ultra-processed foods? Is it because of COVID? Is it just because of stress? We're not sure, but it's true. Younger people are getting sicker.
Sarah just had a heart attack when she got a phone call right in the middle of the show.
Don't do that.
The bus. I have just been thrown under the bus. And also true. Number one, I had no idea that the life expectancy was only 10 to 14 years after a transplant. That is absolute new news to me. And that is a little gloom, especially if you're as young as he is. You know, if you're getting a heart transplant at 20, 25, 30, it's really it's not looking good. I didn't know that. So thank you, Dr. Frida, for teaching us that. And for those that also didn't know. And, you know, for me, though, there are so many times when I think about pre-diabetes, I personally say, you know, is that, what is it called when it's passed down? Help me out, guys. Can't find the word. My brain is still
genetic. Yeah.
Genetic. Is it genetic, or are your bad eating habits genetic? So for me, I think we have such high sugar, such high salts, and especially for those that are living under the poverty line, you know, why is it that a salad is $10 and a burger is $1.99? So they're making it easier to eat crap. And that stuff, I personally think that's kind of where cancer, diabetes, these high
Wait, they got $1.99 burgers. I want one of those.
$1.99 burger.
Where the $1.99? I get no $1.99 burgers.
Well,
Right, go ahead, Dr. Frida. I'm
I'm
wrong.
gonna change your life after this, Torre. But and for anybody that listens that doesn't eat meat, fire hack. Back to you, Dr. Frida.
Sarah, you're absolutely right. So yes, diabetes can run in families, but you know what else runs in families? Frying pans, salt shakers, all of the bad habits. And so for like diabetes type 2, which is the most common one, it's largely environmental, but what are you going to tell someone who is on a fixed income? What are you going to tell them? Not to go to Church's Chicken, not to get the fried foods, the things that they can stretch out and feed their whole family? Or are you telling them to go to Whole Foods and Sprouts where they might be able to get half a meal? So it all goes back to socioeconomic status and oppression that leads to early death, unfortunately, in our people.
I think as a community, more and more.
Can you get a second transplant, Dr. Frida?
What's that?
Can you get a second transplant after that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So even if the first transplant lasts 10 to 14 years, you can get another transplant. So it doesn't mean that his life expectancy is 10 to 14 years. It just means that for the median life expectancy of the transplant is 10 to 14 years. So yes, this is not the end of his story. It just complicates his story.
Good.
All right. Well, our prayers are both with Nene and with Brent. Thank you for catching us up on that, Dr. Frida. Moving on from the heartfelt to the man who has no heart.
Hey, everybody. Judge Lauren Lake here. Listen, I need you to head on over to YouTube weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Why? Because your favorite judge, I'm one of the new co-hosts of Truth Talks Season 2. And guess what? We're live every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, only at Truth Talks-Live. I'll see you there.
In politicking, the Trump administration is about to destroy over 1 million pounds of emergency food. We're talking high energy biscuits that could have fed 1.5 million starving kids for a week. But instead of feeding folks, they're going to set it on fire just because Biden's name is on the receipt. Look at this.
The article suggests that 500 tons of food purchased by the United States to the tune of about $800,000 months ago that are nutritional biscuits designed to stop children from starving have been in a warehouse in Dubai for months and months and months. Senator Rubio has testified about that both here and in the House, that he would make sure that food purchased to keep kids from starving would not be allowed to spoil. The article suggests that this food is on the verge of spoliation and that the U.S. has not distributed it, but is instead planning to incinerate it.
The heartlessness of incinerating so much food when there are starving people in the world is just disgusting and gross and horrifying. And this comes after DOJ ordered the dismantling of USAID. So the food has been sitting in ports for months. Yeah. This is hateful. People are literally starving. White people too. I know Dr. B cares about that. And yet we are destroying food that could make their lives a little bit better. This is part of what America has been part of for decades, making life better for other people in other countries so they think better of us. That is valuable for our safety and our foreign policy. What does it say, Gerald, about America that we'd rather destroy food than let underserved people eat it?
It shows that we've turned from a country that has empathy to a country that is punishing the rest of the world for being brown. And I think it's just horrific that we would allow this food to spoil. It's already been paid for. You can distribute the food. Who cares whose name is on the food? And my question is, how is the food sitting in a warehouse for this long and not have spoiled already? So that's a secondary question. But I just think it shows the lack of empathy of this administration to allow the food to spoil instead of giving it to countries that need this important sustenance.
Sarah, this is where you see people putting politics ahead of service. That did you get into politics to say, look at me? So you're going to reject sending food because somebody else's name is attached to it, rather than getting into politics to serve others. So let's make sure these people eat.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I know I'm the most conservative voice on here, but my question is sometimes at the ports, those big bins get backed up and sometimes they get confused and maybe I mean, how long were they at the ports? Why did they let them spoil? These are all great questions. And still, my other question is, did they get confused on the lineup? Or is this another opportunity to point out, oh, all this food went bad? Was this Biden trying to be like, look at all the good things we did, and he didn't follow through? I just have more questions before I'm ready for the outrage, to be completely honest.
So you could see a ton of food sitting in a port, and you're like, well, I have questions?
No, it's not questions about
we just give them to poor children.
No. I think that things get confused in ports all the time. I think that things get mixed up in ports all the time. I think that people wrongly label things at ports all the time. And because these things happen, my question is that because of this? Or was it sheer neglect, sheer ignorance? Because I don't know the answer, I'm not ready to say, oh, or we're just starving Black and brown people and they deserve this food. Of course they deserve this food, but was this intentional? Or was this proof of negligence? Was this proof of somebody that's not doing their job? Was this proof of bad labeling? Was this proof of overworking the docks and not enough support or laborers to work there? I have more questions.
Doc?
I don't know what the hell she's talking about. Love you, Sarah. I don't know what the hell she's talking about. But what I'm going to say is I do not think Trump gives a damn about feeding anybody but what's at his table. And what's at his table being served is money and power. I don't think he cares that Biden's name is on it, Kamala's name is on it, my name is on it for that sake. He can care less. If the food was spoiled or not, that's not of his concern. Trump has an agenda, and I think that people who did vote for him are seeing that even them are not on his agenda, and the ones like us who didn't vote for him understood that from the fucking beginning. And so am I surprised at another one of his very narcissistic, selfish, dictatorship, I don't care who's eating if you're not at my table, tactics? I'm not surprised at that. And let me go a little further and I'll wrap on this. Elon Musk was at his table. He all of a sudden stopped caring about what Elon Musk was eating and threw him underneath the bus, and their bromance end up in a divorce and a frenzy. So do we really think he cares about feeding anybody some biscuits? Who's starving? No.
For sure. Hit us in the chat if you think the government should have made that food available to people who would choose to eat something that's expired. We know how long those biscuits would last instead of going hungry.
It's Frank Ski, and I'm joining the cast of Truth Talks and bringing all my truth weeknights, 8 p.m. on youtube.com/TruthTalksLive.
Let's move on to our main topic, the NAACP and BLM. This episode is going to rip the mask and expose the uncomfortable truth about Black leadership, generational division, and the battle over who really speaks for us. For decades, the NAACP played the political game, shaking hands and signing bills. Then came BLM, marching in the streets, burning systems, capturing hashtags. They also played the political game, but they did it their way. Now people are saying, who really speaks for Black folks and who's just here to cash in? We're going to watch the fight for Black liberation turn into a branding war where one side wears suits and talks strategy in boardrooms, and the other takes to the streets with hashtags, bullhorns, and GoFundMe pages. But here's the truth. While white supremacy stays organized, Black leadership is currently divided. Let's take a look at two powerful Black organizations, the NAACP and BLM.
The mission of the NAACP was to end forced segregation and racial violence and to ensure civil liberties for all. In 1915, lawyers for the NAACP won a Supreme Court case, which ruled that the grandfather clause used by some states to stop blacks from voting was unconstitutional. Another early success came in 1917, when the Supreme Court declared segregated housing was unconstitutional.
They focused on litigation, changing the laws, and so therefore they lobbied through Congress and with the president to get the federal government to transform state laws to ensure the civil rights of blacks, but also education. They believe that you could change the hearts of white America if you could re-educate them.
One way the NAACP re-educated people was through a monthly magazine called The Crisis. The magazine, edited by W.E.B. Du Bois, served as a newspaper, a literary review, and a voice for the rights of men irrespective of color or race.
Dr. B, you're the president of the local chapter of the NAACP. as we saw in that, 116 years old. Sure does seem like the NAACP has gone a little soft and is not quite meeting the moment that we've had the last 15 years the way that BLM is. What do you think about the way the NAACP is doing things representing Black people versus the way that BLM is?
I think that people have a big disconnect on their education on what we do as NAACP and what BLM does. NAACP, to the gentleman's point in the video, is we are more internal. We are changing things systemically. We are into legislation, lobbying, litigation, laws, and that is what we do. So a lot of the change that we have already been a part of and continuously are and advocating for is done in a way that folks are able to experience the benefits of it, but they're not always able to visually see it. Black Lives Matters, which is a great organization as well, they're more boots to the ground. They won't even meet with law enforcement whatsoever. They will not have a meeting with law enforcement. They're not going to have that conversation. They protest. When we were in a meeting with our chief of police in LA for LAPD, all of our presidents and our regional, they said to us, well, BLM won't even meet with us. That's not what they do. And so I think that the confusion comes in where a lot of folks are bleeding the two. They're bleeding BLM with NAACP, and we are two organizations that fight for the rights of Black folks and human rights, but we do it in a different way. Is one better than the other? No, I think they're both needed. I think we need the protests and we need the boots to the floor. We need the noise. We need that. We need the resistance. So we're not meeting with you until we get things that are different. But we also have to have people who are creating laws, changing laws, because we do live in the law of the land. And if we don't have laws that work for us, then we don't have anything that we can use in a court of law that brings us justice, because it is the law that we have to follow. It's not just protesting in a voice that people are going to adhere to.
Gerald, you run an NAACP chapter as well. If I said to you, okay, BLM's prime focus over the last 10, 15 years has been reforming policing, and the big thing that they've gotten out of that is body cams. We can argue whether or not how successful that is, and that's made some differences. In some ways it has not. But that is something tangible that they can point to. They also would say, we have changed the mind of the world in terms of saying police violence is a systemic thing. They are not independent incidents, but they are one thing. So now they have media and politicians understand this is what that's BLM's big thing that they've accomplished over 15 years.
And before you answer that, Gerald, let's go to a video clip real quick of BLM so that at least the viewers and folks in the chat can get just some context on both.
Why is Black Lives Matter important for the U.S. right now and in the world?
Black Lives Matter is our call to action. It is a tool to reimagine a world where Black people are free to exist, free to live.
That's Patrisse Cullors, one of the founders of Black Lives Matter. Go ahead, Gerald.
So first and foremost, I respect BLM. I was there at the founding in Atlanta for the BLM chapter in Atlanta in 2015. And so they've had a 9-year run here where they've done some great things. I would push back on the fact that they were the ones that achieved body cams. That was a Walter Scott case, which is the South Carolina State Conference of the NAACP. So in the last 10 years, you've seen the NAACP change the course of American history in the state of Georgia by sending two senators to the House and to the Senate and flip the course of power and also elect Joe Biden. So that's just one of the things we've done. We've won so many Supreme Court cases, including the most recent one in Georgia, where we stopped the illegal transfer of voting rules with the state election board. So we have been doing a lot of things that we can point to definitively. You can also point to the Ahmaud Arbery case, which precipitated from the Brunswick NAACP. But what I want people to understand is there are two different tactics, and both are necessary. The NAACP has been around long enough to see the SCLC and SNCC employ the same tactics as BLM. The question for BLM is, are they going to exist in another 10 years because of the internal strife that continues to happen inside of BLM?
Some of the internal strife that you're referring to is actually counterintelligence, that their enemies making them look bad and saying things that are meant to embarrass and discredit the movement. That's how any movement would work. So even when we're talking about Patrisse Cullors, we just saw, bought a $6 million house. And this is widely portrayed as mismanagement. A lot of people live in and use that house. I know this sister. She is the farthest thing from took the money and bought a big house and ran. I know the women around her. They would never allow that. I know the people that work with her. Like there's no sense of that. This is a Black Lives Matter communal space for tons and tons of people. So this $6 million house has become this big thing, this sort of discrediting thing. They've misused the money. That's not fair at all. But I want you to talk about your sense. I feel like, and I want to press this further with you guys, that the NAACP is old school, the tactics, the goals, and BLM is doing it the way that we need to do it today, much more aggressive, much more on the street, much more tactical. Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, especially as far as the pushback that they're getting from other people, because one of the things, if you're using a house to house people, to help things, to do events, to do fundraisers, whatever that may be, that's great. And these are actually plays that the white man does, right? I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But I do think that there are very clear seeds of doubt that have been planted. And I think that the NAACP has on their side that they have a longer and a deeper foundation because they've been around for over a century. So yeah, you could ask the question of, will it be around for 10 years? And that's an easy question to ask when, they've only been around just over 10 years. I also think that when you start looking at BLM, you have people that have planted the seed. I don't know if you guys heard it, but did you guys remember when they said that BLM was founded by a white man? And it almost created this divisive experience for the Black person of, do I even want to support BLM? Or is this just the white man's opportunity of getting us all fired up again to not even get a difference? I don't know if you guys heard that. I definitely heard that when I was living in LA.
Well, I don't do conservative internet, so I wouldn't.
I don't either. Okay.
But we've been clear that it's 3 Black women who founded Black Lives Matter.
Wake of the death of Trayvon Martin. I'm not saying that that's not the truth. What I'm saying is these are the powers at be. When George Floyd happened, a lot of the people were saying, as far as Black Lives Matter go, as far as when we were out here when we were parading in the streets, when we were doing our peaceful protests in the streets, a lot of people were saying that this was a company that was owned by a ultra wealthy white man, which makes someone possibly say, hey, maybe BLM isn't what I thought it was. Maybe I should be paying more attention to the NAACP. So to your point, Torre, I do think that there have been more seeds of doubt planted for BLM because they've been around for a much shorter period of time. But I do think they're more aggressive. I do think they're more strategic, and I do think they're more tactical.
Gerald, one of the moments that really disappointed me about the NAACP in recent years is around Trump. The NAACP of old could be counted on for proverbial pushback against social injustices. And now people are like, maybe they're too slow, too corporate, out of touch. When we talk about what did they do to prevent Trump from winning a second term, and I'm not saying one organization could have done that, but when the NAACP is platforming Trump, inviting him to their convention to do an interview while he's in the midst of the campaign, I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you giving him this space? And that helped him rise up as far as, see, I'm not racist. I'm hanging out with that was a great moment for him. And I'm like, why would the NAACP even give him that sort of moment?
Well, first off, we didn't platform him. We invited him, as we've invited all presidents, to speak to our membership, and he declined. So I'm not sure when you were referring to him coming. And most recently, the 2025 convention, we disinvited him. That was major news. It was all over the internet. Disinvited him because of the attacks on civil rights. So I would push back on a little bit on that, whether or not we platformed him, because we didn't. We invited him in 2016. He decided not to come. We invited him in 2015. He decided not to come. And now we disinvite him in 2025. But I would also point out that, BLM has its strengths. But the NAACP has been consistently doing this for 116 years. We started protests. We are the group that protests with the silent march when we were marching for rights in 1916 to now. And even in the Black Lives Matter movement, its height, 2020 and George Floyd, there were units all over the country participating in protests. With specifically what happened to give rise to the George Floyd moment, it happened in Scintilla Shores in Brunswick, which be Ahmaud Arbery, which is an NAACP case. So what I'm trying to get across to individuals is there's not an either or, there's actually both. My main concern about BLM is the fiscal mismanagement of the $90 million that was given during the height of the George Floyd protests that has not been accounted for. These are the type of controls that in an organization that's going to be a national organization, you have to have those controls. Otherwise, you invite in the ability of the government to discredit with COINTELPRO type tactics, like saying George Soros funds BLM.
But
we face the same argument with the NAACP saying that certain majority community runs the NAACP. That's not true. And so you have to be strong and strategic in your organizational structure to make sure you can push back on that and show transparency.
I mean, you're participating in that by repeating the notion that they are financially mismanaged when we don't really know. We only know what Fox News and what the enemies of BLM are telling us. From what I know, there isn't financial mismanagement. And
we know their IRS
$6 billion house.
Their IRS filings. We do know that.
What?
We do know their IRS filings.
The purchase of a $6 million house in and of itself is not an example of mismanagement. We don't know how that house is being used. We're allowing the oppressor to tell us how to think about BLM.
Or you could just be transparent, as the NAACP is, in reporting where the finances go. Yeah. This is all a part of institutional structures that you report out. This is what happens when you build infrastructure to report out. In the NAACP, you have annual financial reports that go into national, and we put it all out for everyone to see. So these are the type of things that cause us to be able to survive for over a century.
BLM is different than the NAACP purposefully. It is meant to be a leaderless movement that does not have a singular national structure. It's meant to be that way so that there wouldn't be some singular charismatic leader who could be assassinated or COINTELPRO'd out of the way, and that each city would be able to function in a way that was best for what they needed in that city. Because some cities, the BLM's way is far too aggressive, and other cities, it's not enough. They can go even further. So there's not. It's sort of apples and oranges to suggest they don't have a president, right? We think about Patrisse Cullors and Opal and forgetting the other sisters.
So Cicely Gay is not in charge of BLM right now. I get this argument that we are leaderless so that you can't attack the leader, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be structureless. They do have insular units all over the country that don't have a hierarchy that they can report up to.
Yeah, they don't want that.
That's not being strategic. That's being foolhardy. And they need to learn from other organizations who've been doing this a long time, not just the NAACP. There are other organizations. SCLC's been doing it for almost 60 years. There are others that have been doing this for a long time. So I'm just saying that they could learn a lesson from other organizations. Yes, if you have a single charismatic leader, there may be a problem. That's why I'm not saying have a single charismatic leader. I'm saying have leadership that's built in with organizational structures that'll take you to the next level.
I just think if I'm at BLM, and I'm looking at the NAACP, I'm not like, let me learn from them. I'm like, we are trying to make change. We are fighting.
What change have they made? What change can you point to? Again, you talked about Walter Scott case. I can point you to the lawyer and the state conference that assisted in that case. So again, we can point to the high points of the NAACP and the current victories that have occurred. We literally just had a convention in Charlotte that brought over 7,000 people to discuss how we're going to push back. Our strategy for mobilizing voters, our strategy for pushing back on the attacks for civil rights. We're not talking about a house with $6 million. We can't explain what goes on in a house. We have properties all over the country where we can report out what happens at those properties, and they're all owned by national and not a singular branch.
As I explained, that BLM targeted the perception that police violence is an individual thing that happens.
Police violence is on the rise.
And they
George Floyd.
And they helped media and the politicians understand.
Media is not getting change.
These are
actual change.
These are interconnected incidents, so that we will talk and think about
segregation still alive or no,
and understand de facto segregation. Yes, and understand that we can do things about this to combat this problem.
Who did
I
that?
don't know of any young activist, let's say under 35, who would think that the NAACP is leading us to the promised land. Like,
I don't know any young activists, and I don't know any young activists.
It seems
that
like my
currently
grandfather's civil
associates
rights
with
organization.
BLM because of the financial mismanagement. There are a lot of activists and organizers that are doing their own thing because they were dissatisfied with where the movement went. The fact that we went from the heights of 2020 to where we are right now, and that was specifically tailored for their movement, their type of organizing, did not work. And that's why many of the insular units broke up, particularly the BLM in Atlanta. It's no longer around because
you would
they had
understand
mismanagement.
But you would understand how, I'm sure you understand part of how that happened, that the police made that happen, that they are selectively arresting specific people. They are arresting specific people to keep them from being able to protest, and that sucks the power out of the movement. The police see them as such a problem that they are attacking them. They don't need to attack the NAACP. They are literally attacking to try to destroy BLM.
We have lawyers that are some of the greatest lawyers of the 20th century who have always put this work in. So I'm pushing back because I understand that some of the tactics of the association, many people don't appreciate. But you cannot argue with sustained success for 116 years that have caused African Americans to advance to the point we are now, that we can even have this discussion on this platform. We're the only ones calling Elon Musk to the table right now in Memphis for the pollution in the community in South Memphis. So again, I can point to deliverables for the NAACP.
But Gerald, go on and mention the multiple Trump lawsuits that we have, and two that we won. We won
lawsuit.
And the DEI in the school systems that we've already won, as well as the representation in, was it Tennessee, that we won against? I mean, the list goes on and on, but that's all internal lawsuits that are wins, not just for just NAACP, but for the rights of the people that we serve. Where is BLM right now? I don't hear him protesting. I don't see him in the courtroom. I don't see him at the lobbying. I don't hear anything.
See the hashtag. What's going on?
Hashtag where they at? Hashtag where they at?
And I ain't seen the NAACP in 25 years. Go, Sarah.
So you didn't see us in Charlotte? Time out. You didn't see us in Charlotte? You didn't see us tell Donald Trump not to come? It was literally the number one trending thing on air.
Can I chime in really quick? I just got to say this because I think that there's a level of unfairness that's happening right now because we have two people that are a part of the NAACP and nobody that's a part of
one
BLM.
That was a part of BLM.
Right. Okay, great. Understood. So what I'm hearing right now is division. This is a useless conversation that just continues to pin blacks against blacks instead of us coming together. And that's the real issue. The real issue is that instead of saying, hey, you guys are better working inwardly and we're better and more aggressive being outwardly, why don't we come together and work together? This is non-conducive to the mission. And this is the problem with black people.
We already said that. We said that earlier, Sarah.
Who said we haven't had those conversations?
I'm not saying you haven't.
It was framed as though the NAACP versus BLM. It wasn't framed as though the NAACP helped establish BLM in Atlanta, was there on the executive convening call, saw the dysfunction that was happening in that particular institution and saw it nationally. So again, it's not one versus the other. It's a critique of what was actually happening on the ground and why it's not working.
Gerald, when you're saying things like, where are they now? When you're saying things like,
that's a real question. Where are they? Where are they? That's a real question. Where are they?
Finish, and I will answer. This is the thing.
Well, tell us where they are.
I'm trying to, Cheyenne.
Good, Sarah.
Tell us. You are consistently in a space where you are saying this person isn't doing that, this person isn't doing that. The truth is, until we are in that organization, we don't know. And for me personally, because I'm not a part of BLM and I'm not a part of the NAACP, but just with a really simple search on the internet, what you can see is this $6 million house that we're saying if they did the resources in an incorrect way, it's saying that it's owned by the network, right? And it is a place for housing and studio space for recipients of the Black Joy Creators Fellowship. It's a safe haven for activists and organizers. It's a place for planning and organizing. It's a space for healing and community building. It's a place for hosting events and gatherings just off of a simple search. You guys are over here saying a bunch of stuff that you don't know because you're not in that group. And this is the thing. That's what creates division. We need to be having more conversations about what can Black Lives Matter do with the NAACP and come together. Until we get to that point, we're always going to be stuck here. And that's the problem with our people.
Gerald, she makes a great point. Hold on. Gerald, she makes a great point that the NAACP has, as you're doing this conversation, trying to be united, trying to bridge the gap. They have released official statements supporting BLM. They have been there helping BLM chapters rise up. They have not been oppositional. And we've been oppositional ideologically in this conversation, but the NAACP has been very welcoming and helping to BLM as they come into the civil rights fray over the last decade plus, especially when you have the moment of George Floyd and all that happened. But there is a generational and strategic divide. And I think you can see the way that BLM goes about their business in the streets on social media is much more aligned with the way that people under 30 conduct their lives versus the way the NAACP
under 40.
Yeah, so you got a lot of people who are Touré, hold on, first of all, it's not Gerald, it's Dr. Bryant, and I'm speaking. So we're not going to do that in that order. Now, what I was saying was we have a lot of people who have a lot of strong opinion about what these two organizations are doing, such as you or Sarah, who, one, are not members of neither one of the organizations, who, two, are not a part of any of this change, because you don't have to be a part of the organization to be a part of the change, who, three, are not in any leadership positions. You don't need a title to be a leader, who is contributing to the advocacy that Gerald is doing, I'm doing, or even the members within both organizations are doing. So for me, that is a little flabbergasted, because it's like, well, you know, you Google something, Sarah, that obviously anybody can put up on Google. We know that is not a good research. That is not a peer-reviewed research. And you're telling us information that somebody in BML wrote to cover their ass up on something. But you're not a part of any of this advocacy, this change, or even a member of any of these organizations that we have been trying to partner up with for the entirety that BLM has been an organization. NAACP supports every organization, not just that supports Black rights and Black advancement. We are an organization that supports human rights and civil rights. So if you are in a Latina, if you are in an Asian, if you're in an LGBTQ plus organization that focuses on human rights and civil rights, we partner with you, we support you, and we attempt to help you advocate for what you're advocating for, because we are the biggest, the oldest, and the boldest civil rights organization alive today. And you can Google that. And you can Google that. Touré, nothing about you is bold but your mouth. So let's not talk about that.
Gerald, there wouldn't
be,
Gerald, there would not be a BLM if the NAACP was truly relevant to this moment. There's a need perhaps to bridge the gap between the two organizations, to spark change and center the mission of Black liberation. But like, both groups need to learn to support each other. And I know you want to do it. It's more on my side and perhaps on Sarah's side, where I'm like, I think BLM is looking to the future in the tactics and the goals. And I think the NAACP is my grandmother's organization. I'm like, we did that. Thank you so much. But we got to move forward.
Yeah, and none of you guys have answered the question as where is BLM? Sarah Googled something, the lowest resource you can ever Google, and then put it on here like she was cooking when she totally didn't serve. She fried. And you, Touré, you haven't answered the question. Where is BLM? Where's Black Lives Matter? No one can answer the question.
Let me answer.
Can we put Cicely on here? Where's BLM? I'm waiting for that answer. Y'all are just distracting and distracting. Where is BLM? Google that. Google that. Google where is BLM. I'm waiting for the Google. Google that.
Guys,
Google it.
Okay, so I don't believe in combativeness. That's not my thing. I'm not a combative person. I also don't believe in going low. But I also think that it is ignorant to make a statement that just because we aren't a part of these two groups that we're not advocating for our people. Because I'm not trying to toot horns or get into all of that, but I can tell you thousands of people that I have helped with financial literacy, that I've helped to get out of their way, that I've helped people develop and transform their mindset. There are so many things that I've done for our community. And just because I'm not a part of the NAACP does not mean that I'm an advocate. So I just want to make sure that we check that right there. Also, I think that, like I said, because you guys are a part of these organizations, it's easy for you guys to speak on what you are a part of. From the outside looking in, in this whole conversation, all I'm seeing is division. All I'm seeing is combativeness. All I'm seeing is anger and passion targeted at the wrong thing.
All I'm seeing is deflection. Answer the question. All I see is deflection on your end, Sarah. Where is BLM? Use your iPhone and Google again. Where is BLM in 2025? Google it. What lawsuits have they entered into? What lawsuits have they won? Use your Google or your chat GPT to give you some information because you don't have it and you're not cooking, you're frying.
Gerald, how do we get these groups to support each other and coexist together to be actionable for Black America? Because the BLM folks, the BLM adjacent side are like, those guys are yesterday, they're slow. You guys are like, no, we're not. How do we get together?
So we sit down with Hawk Newsome and Cicely Gay, which I know very well. And we have a conversation.
Love Hawk.
The door's always open. Again, when you're an activist and you actually do this, you know everybody. And so for them to say there's no centralized leadership, there is centralized leadership. You're not fooling the FBI or anybody else in thinking that they're not doing COINTELPRO against you. So sit down, let's have a conversation. Let's see how we can coexist, where we can help you with institutional constraints and structures to make sure there's no allegations of misappropriation. And let's get to spending the $90 million that was given during the George Floyd protest for the betterment of the community, not a house. We need to actually build housing for the entire community. And so as the president of the Georgia State Conference, my door is always open. I know the president of National NAACP, Derek Johnson, his door is always open. There was room at the convention for BLM to come. I think we invited a few of them to come. And so all I'm saying is the framing of this conversation was the NAACP versus BLM. And if the framing of the conversation is NAACP versus BLM, there's no debate there. Okay. But what I would say is this: in order for the liberation of Black people and brown people and all the oppressed people of this country to move forward, there does need to be a conversation. So we can have a convening. The door is always open for a convening. But what we need to do is make sure that we frame this in facts, not just Google, but actual facts. Because if you Google what the NAACP has done recently, there will be 16 pages of what the association has done. If you Google the Georgia State Conference by itself, there will be 8 pages. So I think that we got to reframe this. And for people to say that folks under 35 don't know what the NAACP has done. Remember the student loan movement to cancel student loans? That was the NAACP. Wisdom Cole from Youth and College Division was one of the leaders of that. So for the people under 35 that had their student loans forgiven, thank Wisdom.
What is the number one thing that you think that the NAACP has done in the last 10 years?
Student loan forgiveness. You can Google it. Student loan forgiveness.
And I think if we want to go all the way back to just even, Martin Luther King Jr., who was our member, everything he has done is a representation of the organization that he was a proud member of, right? And so we have folks who are on the front line of freedom fighting. And Gerald, you said something that I love is that when you really do this, you know these people. Hawk Newsome, one of my great, love Hawk. He was actually one of my clients for multiple years. Hawk and I have partnered up. He is the president of New York BLM, and that man stays boots to the ground. Hawk ain't no joke. I wanted him to be on one of our episodes. Him and I partnered up on things for NAACP. Our BLM here in Los Angeles has been in meetings with our NAACP that I have organized, as well as another one of our NAACP presidents organized, because he's a member of BLM, but he's a president of NAACP. And we had meetings on how do we synergize this? How do we do this together? So again, the folks who are on the outside, who are just the outside chatter, they have a lot to say, but they don't know systemically we are working with every single organization that can advance human rights.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't feel it. I mean, Sarah, I don't know. I don't.
You're not a member, so of course you don't feel it. You're not at our meetings. You're not a part of it.
You have to be a member. Obviously, I wouldn't have to be a member.
You should be a part of the conversation.
When BLM is breaking on highways,
neither one of you are outside. Okay, you don't go outside. You don't protest. You don't do this work.
Who's saying
that? You don't know me, sir. You don't know me, sir. You don't know me, sir.
I'm just being real. I know the activists. I've been doing this a while. And so for it to be a NAACP versus BLM. It's not NAACP versus BLM. It's NAACP and BLM against white supremacy.
What's up, Truth fam? It's your girl, Cheyenne. And yes, season 2 of Truth Talks is here, and we are turning up even higher.
Yo, it's your man, Toure, the newest co-host on the set, and I'm bringing heart, heat, and hard truth every night.
And we are keeping it all the way fire. Ain't no filters, ain't no fluff, just straight facts. Y'all know how we do.
So stop scrolling and pull up to our YouTube at TruthTalks-Live. Like, subscribe, and smash that bell.
And after you do that, join us because we go live weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern on all the coasts. Wherever you are, from culture to controversy, we say what everyone else is scared to say.
We talk truth. Season 2 of Truth Talks. Let's go. Because this time, we ain't asking. We're taking the mic.
We offered for you guys to come and not only, you don't have to be a member, but to be a part of the conversation, because you don't have to be a member to be at our meetings. You don't have to be a member to even just be a part of the conversation. We're saying, come get the experience and hear what we're talking about. See if there's something that you can be a part of. If not, we still support you because our organization is meant to advocate for folks like you. So we still have your back. But if you want to be able to have some knowledge that you really understand, come to a meeting, come to a conference. You can email me about what is going on locally in your area that I can tell you to be a part of. One thing about NAACP, we are really a family. If I know someone calls me from Atlanta and they need something, I'm sending them directly to Gerald. If I know someone in North Carolina, I'm sending them directly to that president. We are a family over here, and we will put you where you belong. And we want people to be involved. We want membership to help our organization so that we have more boots on the floors. We have more people who can advocate. We got people who can go lobby for us. We got a whole system that we have in NAACP where, again, we cannot do any backdooring because we got to report all of the things that come through our front door. We are held accountable in this organization.
Gerald, I kind of would like to come to a meeting, but I don't have any hard shoes.
What do you need hard shoes for?
I
don't have like a suit. Like you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't have.
This is a European way of thinking.
We were outside. On Thursday when we were outside for John Lewis, who was a member of the Atlanta branch of the NAACP. To good trouble lives on. Did I have on hard shoes, or was I outside with an A hat cocked to the side and my Jordans on? Again. If you really do this work, you understand it's not 1960, it's 2025. The association is outside, the work is outside, and we're going to continue to do the work outside.
Look,
now,
can I just jump in one for really quick? I just got to say this, because the same way that ministry can be done outside of the church, advocacy can be done outside of organizations. Okay. Sure. It's feeling real judgmental over here. And I
heard what you said, and I appreciate. Let me
finish just one real quick. This is what I'm saying. I don't want the people that are listening to this call to be thrown off like, oh, I'm not a part of NAACP. I'm not a part of BLM. All of a sudden, I'm not nothing. I don't do advocacy, because that's not the truth. However, I just want you guys to know that's what it sounds like to me. And y'all can let us know in the chat if that's what it sounds like, but that's definitely what it sounds like to me.
Sarah, you're conservative. What are you talking about right now? What are you talking about right now? What are we doing?
She's making a good point.
My point is that we get to understand, whether it's BLM, whether it's NAACP, or any other organization, what does Black freedom and that movement in 2025 even look like? Because college kids, let's just call it, it is what it is. College kids aren't checking for each other. They're just not. And there's a huge level of disappointment. So what difficulties do we have to overcome together? Forget the name of the company. Forget that you guys can run down all the things that you've done. If we had Cicely on this call, I'm sure she could run down all the things that she's done. The question is, what can we do together? What's the unified plan?
I love that, Sarah, because we have college branches too. We also have college branches, and college kids, they protest, and we have college and high school kids who actually were at the forefront and organized our entire George Floyd protest here in Los Angeles. We get them together. We had BML folks who were in our protest. This is not a NAACP versus BLM in our mindset. That was the caption of the episode for today. So we had to follow code on staying on topic. We have said this several times. Gerald said it on here like a broken record. Y'all may not want to hear it. Maybe it's landing on deaf ears. We are open and have worked with BLM and any and every organization who is focusing on human rights or civil rights. That's what we do. They stand on our shoulders, and we invite them to stand on our shoulders. What we're saying is, as an organization that was born in 1909, February freaking 12th, we are going to make sure that we also stand on the respect that we deserve. You can stand on our shoulders, but just like we have to give our ancestors the respect of standing on their shoulders, they're standing on ours. But we want to help. We're not saying they're standing on ours because we're better. Gerald. What we're saying is both are needed. Gerald and I both said these two things. We said both organizations are needed. We need people with boots on the floor. We need that noise. We need to bring awareness. Hell yeah. And then we need to be in the courthouse going, you hear that shit out there? You're going to pass this legislation. You hear that shit out there? We're going to create different laws. You hear that shit out there? You're going to make sure justice is showing up in our cities and in our communities. They both are needed, just like we need people like you and Teray and the people in the chat. Even if you are not freaking a member, we still want your leadership in your communities. You don't need to be a member. You don't need to have a title. You're responsible for your neighborhood, for your community, and for your household. And show up in that.
Gerald, with social injustice, we're on a sort of, there is a way that we do these things quite often. There's a public injustice, there's marching in the streets, some things get burned down, maybe somebody emerges to sort of calm the noise. We try to move to a political solution, and then maybe things work out. Maybe it just stops right there. And then we see that again at the next big killing or the next big event. How effective can we truly be when our movements are kind of predictable in this way? And like, this is the way that we deal with these big events that we're suffering.
And that's why I think we need to have a conversation that shows the history of this. I think many people are just focused on the last 10 years and don't recognize that this movement has been going on for 400 years. And yes, if you don't learn from history, you're going to repeat it, and you're not going to get to the end goal. If we're just talking about from Trayvon to now, yes, we haven't gotten to the point where we need to have that massive win for the culture. And that's why it's incumbent upon the newer groups getting with the older groups to compare notes to how we get to legislation. George Floyd's protest would have been successful if there had been the passage of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. You never protest and not get legislation or litigation to end the issue. And that's the problem. And so that's why when we have these conversations and you talk about the tactics of BLM as opposed to the tactics of the NAACP, it shouldn't be an either or. It should be a combination of both. Dr. King knew that because he was the youth council president of the Atlanta NAACP, and his father was one of the first presidents of the Atlanta NAACP. That's why the history is important, and that's why we're grounding this conversation in history.
I mean, the history is extraordinarily important. I don't feel like you guys are representing the modern movement and the modern challenges with the tactics and the strategy and the way that it needs to be approached. I don't know that you're winning over the next generation to make them want to be activists. A lot of BLM people I see are giving over their entire lives. Like, BLM is not like an organization for them. Like, this is a lifestyle. It's a 24-hour-a-day thing. And
so Megger didn't have a lifestyle where he gave everything.
It's a much deeper attempt to try to change your entire world. And I feel a much more Black centrism from that group.
MLK died for this. That's more than a lifestyle. John Lewis, MLK, you're really disrespecting a lot of freedom fighters that really are where you're living in the benefit of their work.
These are legends of the movement.
I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about the last 10 years. And you're like, well, don't talk about I'm talking about right now and the challenges that we have right now and the pain that we are dealing with Trump. And like, do I see the NAACP able to be as powerful as I know they were when I read the history books? No, I don't see that. I see BLM trying to do that, using the modern tactics, being in people's faces, shutting down highways, being in the social media in an incredibly pertinent and amazingly informative way. I think NAACP has a lot to learn from what BLM is accomplishing today. And
you see all that because you've been on the sideline. That's it. You need boots to the ground. You've been on the sideline. It's easy for a sideline person to tell you what plays to run or what plays haven't been ran when you're not in the field. And that's the biggest problem of this hypocrisy with folks like you who have a whole lot to say, or even Sarah, when you're on the sideline. Put your cheerleading skirt on, Sarah. You can put your low team playing jersey on, but you're on the sideline. You're not on the field with us. You're not helping us coordinate plays, so you won't be a part of running them, and you won't know our locker room talk if you're not at the meeting.
So we got to be at the meeting to see what Jack and Jill is doing.
Well, you don't have to hear it, but you're benefiting from all of the work that all of us are doing all the way up until today.
Y'all are for the work y'all did in the past before you were alive.
You are a recipient of the work that we do every day, that Gerald does when he's at conventions, that I do when I'm in meetings, the police reform that we're talking about, the legislation, the lobbying that we do. You are directly, and Sarah directly, benefiting from those things. If you don't see them, that's on you. But if you want more information, yes, I'm inviting y'all to be a part of the meeting and the locker room talk. That is how you understand really what's going on.
All right, that's where we're going to leave it tonight. When it comes to Black liberation, we got heart, we got history, but let's be honest, we're moving perhaps in cycles and not being as strategic as we could be. The frustration, the fatigue, the truth behind the fractured state of modern Black movements is only the tip of the iceberg. Because if the NAACP and BLM can't align on the basics of truth, unity, and action beyond the camera lens, then we're not building a movement. We're just giving the system a script it already knows by heart. So the real flex is not another march. It's consistency. It's strategy. It's electing new young faces to boost up the old guard, and it's refusing to be political. That's Truth Talks, where the noise ends and the real works begin. That's our show for tonight. Like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel at TruthTalks-Live. Watch us simulcasting right here in the Black Star Network right after Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support Black media at CashApp, Truth Talks Live, or using any of the links on your screen, any of them at all. You can also support us by advertising with Truth Talks, reach our over 10 million person viewing audience through all our social platforms. Small businesses and influencers can partner with us by visiting TruthTalksLive.com. Become a VIP member of the Truth Lounge and click on any co-host room. Black media is under attack, and this show is being shadow banned. So keep supporting us by telling a friend to tell a friend to watch Truth Talks, 8 p.m. EST, 8 p.m. PST every night. We'll be back every night at 8 p.m. See you tomorrow.
Hold on, Gerald, please tell them what you said in the chat. See y'all outside. And what
I said in the chat is, if you know history, black movement has always been fractured. We need to see y'all outside. If you want to have a meeting, we're having a state conference meeting, October the 9th through the 11th. Let's talk more action. Come on outside.
I'll buy a tie.
And that's a formal.
You don't need one. You can wear a shirt
with sweats on, T-shirt on. Yes.